Well, I'm glad this is going to work so you can see all the cool slides I put together. See how this goes. First thing I'm going to do is take off my shoes. I'm a barefoot presenter. I don't know why. Maybe it makes me feel like we're talking over the kitchen table instead of in front of all of you. Although if we were, I would be in my pajamas. And there'd be toys everywhere and children yelling at each other. So this is probably a better venue. I'm so excited to be here at UCAP. I love UCAP. And I'm especially excited today because this is my favorite group of people to talk to. And I know that some of you are here for healing from your own betrayal trauma, and some of you are here to learn to better support and help the loved ones in your life that have betrayal trauma. And to that second group, I'm so grateful for you because you are so needed in the betrayal trauma community. We need more safe people, more people who can support and understand betrayal trauma. And now that I've said that, I'm going to completely ignore you for the rest of the presentation because I want to talk to those of you who are going through your own betrayal trauma. I am just honored to be with you. And I might get emotional because I usually do when I talk to you because you are so strong and you are going through so much and you are so courageous. So let me get that out of the way. I'm just really honored to get to be with you and to talk to you. I lied. I'm actually going to talk to all of you for just one more second. We have an experiential exercise today that we're going to do. We actually used to have a couple, but I've literally cut this presentation in half twice. So trying to fit it into the time. So if we don't cover everything in your little blurb, class blurb, I'm really sorry. We just have way too much to talk about. But during our experiential exercise, don't worry, you're not going to have to get up or anything. You just sit with your eyes closed. But I'd like to invite everyone to participate because that creates safety for everyone here and makes everyone feel comfortable. And the exercise is going to be useful and helpful for everyone, not just those in betrayal trauma. Okay, I think that's all the background stuff, so let's get started. See if I can do this right. This is not my computer, so this could be interesting. I want to give you a little background on betrayal trauma. Betrayal trauma emerged in the literature in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it referred to the trauma of a close family member, usually a parent. But as the literature developed, spousal betrayal trauma became a really important aspect of betrayal trauma. It's also very closely associated with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Most betrayed spouses show some characteristics of PTSD, and many weren't a full diagnosis. And so Dr. Kevin Skinner at Addo has done actually a lot of clinical research on that, and I'm grateful to him for that. But I'm going to go ahead and go through the PTSD symptoms. So if you were going to go in and see if you had a diagnosis of PTSD, these are the things that they would look at. And the reason why I want to do that is because you might recognize yourself on some of these slides. And whether or not you determine sort of in yourself as you look at these slides that you would develop or that you weren't a full diagnosis, that's not really the point. The point is to show you that this is trauma and that you probably relate. You're probably in a space of trauma. So a lot of the things the responses that your body and emotionally that you're having, they're normal responses. So let's go ahead and go through some of these slides. The first one, obviously, is you have to have exposure to trauma. And I want to make a distinction here because we're talking about post-traumatic stress, right? So after the trauma. But a lot of you in here are probably experiencing current trauma also. Either your spouse is not in recovery or is in early stages of recovery where they're still struggling to figure out how do I not do this relapse thing. So there are two things that you're dealing with, most likely. So it's not like a war vet who does the combat thing and then comes home and is now dealing. You're probably doing both at the same time. So so it's a little bit trickier and much more intense on you as you're trying to heal. So the first group of symptoms, intrusive symptoms, for a full diagnosis, you have to have at least one or more of these. So they're reoccurring involuntary and intrusive upsetting memories of the trauma, repeated upsetting dreams that have trauma-related content, some type of dissociation like flashbacks where you feel the trauma is happening again, strong persistent distress when triggered, and those triggers can come from inside your body or outside of your body. We're going to talk about them in a second. And strong bodily reactions like increased heart rate, sweaty palms, any things you would associate with fear or anxiety upon exposure to a reminder of the trauma. So we're going to time out for a second, talk about trauma triggers and trauma anniversaries. Trauma triggers are something inside or outside of the body that trigger a physical or emotional memory of the trauma. So an internal trigger might be, for example, if your D-Day, for those of you not familiar with that, that's your discovery date of the betrayal. If your D-Day happened to be while you were pregnant, then maybe 5 years later or down the road, you might be in great recovery, your spouse might be in great recovery, and you're pregnant again, and something about that pregnancy in that moment on a specific day reminds your body of what it felt like in that pregnancy on that day, discovery day, and your body will go into trauma and it will react as though you are in the trauma all over again. So that's an internal cue. An external cue might be, again, down the road, things are great, your spouse is doing great in recovery, you're doing great in recovery, and you happen to walk into the room and they're on the computer and they happen to switch their screen right as you walk in the room. And some of you may actually feel that right now, just, and it may not be. They just might have happened to switch the screen and it just happened to coincide with you coming into the room, but your body reacts and it goes, oh my goodness, it's happening again, okay? So these are trauma triggers, and it is a normal PTSD reaction. And you can't change whether or not they occur, but over time with your recovery, they will lessen. And you can learn tools that can help you move through those triggers more quickly so that you're not there all of the time. So we're going to talk today about some of those choices that you can make that can move you through that trauma. Also, trauma anniversaries are a phenomenon that I've observed with people that I've worked with, where it's a type of trauma trigger that revolves around the anniversary of trauma. So, for example, if your D-Day was today, 5 years ago, this morning you might wake up and you might have absolutely you might just not consciously remember today is my D-Day 5 years ago. Everything's great in my life, I'm doing great. But suddenly you wake up this morning and you're really depressed, you're really anxious. You start having some of these reactions. You might have bodily reactions like constipation or diarrhea or an upset stomach or headaches. And you're going, what is the matter with me? What is going on? And what your body is doing is it's having a reaction. So the reason why I want to tell you about these is because it can help you as you're going through recovery. And you have these days and these times when all of a sudden my body or my mind or everything is just kind of going crazy. What is going on? And you can look at your experiences and say, okay, do I have maybe a D-Day here? Did I have a trauma going on? Is there something that might have triggered this reaction in me? Because this is a normal PTSD response. Okay, next one, avoidance symptoms, one or more. Most people, I think, have both. Avoiding thoughts, feelings, or physical sensations that bring up trauma memories, or people, places, conversations, activities, objects, or situations that bring up trauma memories. So this can also include going numb, checking out of life, watching Netflix for 4 hours, or being too busy to feel. And that's often a big one that we don't think about. being too busy to feel. I just get involved in so many things that I don't ever have a chance to feel what's going on in my life. Okay? The increase of or beginning of negative thoughts and moods. 3 or more of these. Poor memory around the trauma, persistent and elevated negative evaluations about self, others, and the world. So about myself, there must be something wrong with me. I must be unlovable, or maybe I'm not skinny enough. And if that were fixed, then my spouse wouldn't have betrayed me, right? That is a negative thought that is completely inaccurate, right? About others, I hear a lot, all men are addicts. That's my new viewpoint. I walk down the hall, I see a guy on his phone, oh, he must be looking at porn. Or I see someone look at someone else, oh, they must be objectifying that person. So these are inaccurate views of the world and of other people and ourselves that we develop when we're in trauma. Okay? The world is an evil place, another example. Elevated blame of yourself or others for the causes or consequences of trauma. So if I were more, and other people do this, will say this too oftentimes, if I as a betrayed spouse were more sexually available and just had sex whenever they wanted, then they wouldn't have betrayed me. Right, that's one we hear a lot. Or others. Another one with others is it's her parents' fault that she's an addict. If they were better parents to her, she wouldn't have been an addict and she wouldn't have betrayed me. Okay? So blaming other people. Pervasive negative emotional states, shame, anger, fear, resentment, loss of interest in activities you used to enjoy, feeling detached from others, and inability to experience positive emotions. Okay, the next group, 3 or more of these, increase or beginning of arousal states. Irritability or aggressive behavior. I have a lot of people who, especially women that have mom guilt, because I'm going through this and I am like the worst mother in the world now. I'm so angry and irritable with my kids all the time. This is a normal response to your situation. It's normal. And as you go through healing, we'll talk about this, as you go through healing, this will automatically resolve. So it's not about you needing to be better controlling of your emotions or a better person or I need to take parenting classes. It's about the fact that you're in trauma. Okay? Impulsivity or self-destructive behavior, eating a whole tub of ice cream, taking a big shopping spree, those kinds of things would fit in that category. Feeling constantly on guard, like danger's always near. Hypervigilance. When's the next shoe going to drop? I've got to be constantly checking the phone, the internet, every avenue. Where is he? I'm going to look at, is he where he's supposed to be? All of those kinds of things. A heightened startle response, difficulty concentrating in problems, sleeping. Above symptoms last for more than a month and bring significant distress and interfere with significant several areas of life. So a lot of people completely lose the ability to function, right? I talk with women who have moldy dishes in their sink, who haven't showered or brushed their teeth for days because they just can't seem to do it, right? They just can't seem to get themselves through life. And they're like, what is my problem? I'm a horrible, terrible person. And I say, you are doing exactly, this is a completely normal response for your circumstances. This is normal. This is what happens to people in trauma. So if you are just barely getting through the day, you are doing a great job. You are doing a great job. And you are experiencing exactly, clinically, what we would expect to see from someone who has experienced the trauma that you've experienced. So you can breathe and give yourself a pat on the back and say, I'm okay. I'm not crazy. I'm not just defective. I'm having a normal reaction. Okay, there are some additional symptoms that I see a lot. Adrenal fatigue. Your adrenal glands, little glands, sit on top of your kidneys. They manage your stress. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Your body is in heightened stress. And with many of you who are experiencing ongoing trauma, that's an added layer of stress. Your adrenals can get overtaxed. They can shut down, and you are going to be exhausted and have a lot of other symptoms. So I'm not going to go into those, but you can look those up. Depression, anxiety, weight loss, weight gain. Your body, Cherish Lloyd is a really great body therapist, OT, that works with betrayal trauma. She talks about what happens to our bodies physically when we are in trauma. And she says trauma pulls us in. It hunches us over to protect ourselves. We develop these coping mechanisms even throughout our whole bodies to manage the trauma that we're going through. So we get this hunched down inside of ourselves. Sherie Hoffman is a yoga therapist, not a yoga teacher, she's a yoga therapist. She works at Addo Recovery, and you can also find her at Back Pocket Yoga. She's on your resources handout. She's also really fabulous with this body connection for trauma. And she says what we do is we tighten when you're in trauma, and you go up into your head. You're obsessing, you're ruminating, you're just trying to control. You do all these things up in your head. And it's a physical manifestation of what you're doing emotionally. So you're trying to find this safety by doing everything up here. And the problem is then you're not into your body, and you're not feeling what's really going on. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's what happens to your body, some of the things. There are many more things that happen. So all that's to say, you are not crazy. You are not crazy. These are normal trauma responses. You might have recognized yourself in some of these symptoms. And there is no shame in experiencing these symptoms. There's no shame in experiencing a normal response to trauma. You are experiencing completely normal responses to your situation. Significant trauma deserves healing. Okay? If you recognize yourself on these slides, you have experienced significant trauma. Okay? And it's important not to minimize your experiences and to give yourself or to find resources and things to take care of yourself, to find help for yourself, and to find healing for yourself. Okay? This is a common thing that I hear. Well, if the addict gets fixed, then I'm going to be fine. Right? And this is inaccurate. Right? If you were in a serious car accident with a drunk driver, you would not say, well, if that drunk driver gets into rehab, I'm going to be fine. My punctured lung, my broken bones, all these things, I'm going to be great. Right? You would never say that. And in fact, you would do whatever it took, however many appointments and visits and self-care and not doing all of the things of life to give your body a chance to heal, you would do all of those things. Right? And yet when it's emotional trauma, we say, oh no, it's not. I don't have to do that. That will just go away on its own as long as someone else gets taken care of, right? But that's not how it works. Each of you needs your own healing from the trauma you've experienced. You would take months, even years, to heal. And that is what you deserve now, for what you are going through now. Again, this is trauma. Body trauma, same as emotional trauma. Sometimes it takes months and years to heal, and you deserve it. It's important, and you're worth getting the help and the healing that you need. Okay? When you experience trauma and these symptoms, your body goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode. Okay? You lose the ability to be a present witness for yourself in your body. You lose the ability to listen to your intuition and to be grounded so that you can make healthy choices for yourself instead of choices based on fear, anxiety, resentment, or anger. Today, we're going to talk about the hope and healing that can come. You have opportunities for hope. You have resources. This is a place to find options. So you don't have to stay in that fight, flight, freeze, limited choices space. There are things that you can do to move yourself through the trauma, things you can do to take care of yourself and begin to choose your response over time as you get triggered. Because you may get triggered occasionally for the rest of your life, but you will have the tools to move through it. It will not overtake you and take control of your life forever. Okay? I spoke at a conference a few years ago for women, spouses of pornography addicts. And they had these great t-shirts that said "Determined to Rise," and I got myself one. And it was in reference to this quote by W.E. Du Bois, who says, "There is no force equal to a woman determined to rise." And while not all of you spouses are women, you all are strong and you can move through the things that you're faced with. So even though you were victimized, you are not a victim. You have choices concerning your actions, and you can find health and serenity and healing regardless of the outcome of your relationship and regardless of your external circumstances. Whatever they are, you can find hope, you can have joy, and all of those wonderful things that you had before. So here's our experiential exercise. This comes sort of modified. The part you will do with yourself, not here, comes from Tara Brach, who's a mindfulness guru. So get a little bit comfortable. I'd like to invite you to close your eyes for a minute and take your hand and place it on your heart. And if you can, give yourself some skin-to-skin contact. You might not be exactly on your heart. You might be up a little bit. But if you can't, don't worry about it. But if you can, give yourself some skin-to-skin contact, okay? And breathe with your eyes closed as deeply as you can while I talk. Okay? You are not crazy. You are reacting completely normally for your situation. Anyone in your situation would react this way. You deserve to know that. You deserve to be validated and to be seen. I want you to know that I see you. Today, I am a witness of your experience and of your pain. And as you breathe, you also become a witness of your own experience and your own pain. I want to start with that, from that space of truth, because you deserve to know that. You deserve to know and feel that truth. This is an exercise you can do anytime, whether you're having a trigger or whether you're having trauma. Put your hand on your heart, you breathe, and you say to yourself out loud, of course you would feel that way. Anyone would feel that way. When you do that, you validate yourself. You ground yourself. You calm and center yourself so that you can make healthy choices. And also so you can have a break from the trauma and from the pain. So you can open your eyes. Feel free to keep your hand there. If it feels good to you, put it back later. Keep breathing deeply. But can you feel how that feels in your body? You feel that? That serenity and that peace is your body, your intuition telling you truth. Okay? As you learn to reconnect with yourself, trust that feeling. as my mom would say when I was little, trust the peace. Trust that feeling. And as you work through the discomfort of trauma and the discomfort of healing, it's hard. Look for, find, and stay with those things that bring you that truth and that peace and that serenity. Okay? Your body resonates. It's a sounding board that resonates with truth. If you're familiar with music, sounding board vibrates with the sound waves. And your body does that with truth. That's why we say, oh, that resonated with me. We are recognizing and feeling the truth of what we just said, what someone just said. Okay, there are some other grounding resources. Oh, okay, we'll skip ahead. Other grounding resources, restorative or therapeutic yoga. Like I said, Sherie Hoffman at Addo Recovery and backpocketyoga.com is a yoga therapist. So she has some great resources, great classes available for trauma. Meditation and mindfulness really go together quite well. And I want to point out that meditation isn't always, legs crossed and we're umming, right? There are lots of ways for mindfulness and meditation. So I invite you to explore all the different ways, because some ways might work for you right now or today. Other things might really speak to you at another time. So give yourself that wide range of options. You can meditate and be mindful while you're walking, while you're journaling. There's a lot of different options available. Exercise. If we think about what happens in trauma, we're going like this up in our heads, and we're obsessing, and we're ruminating, and we're trying to control and figure out. So if you're doing that, you're not in your body. So if you can think about the other things that you can do that would get you back in your body, like yoga, any type of exercise is helpful. I talked with a woman who had an experience where she had a massive trauma experience. And she was on the floor in the fetal position. And she said she could just feel herself going into this dark, dark place. And she didn't understand any of this at the time, but she said, I just instinctively somehow knew that I had a choice to go down into this dark place, or I could get up and go running. And she hadn't done a lot of exercise, but she just knew that was her option. So she did. She got up and she went running, and it was dark outside, and there was this huge storm, and she just ran and ran and ran for 6 miles, which was really unheard of. Her body shouldn't have been able to do that in her present state, but it was what it needed. And it was able to do that because it was moving through the trauma and out the other side. So reaching out to your people. Who are your people? Your people are safe people, people that you can talk to, that will understand and be there for you. But more importantly, your people are people who have been where you are and who are where you are. People who understand because they are in the same situation. Where do you find these people? Group therapy, online groups like Betrayal Trauma Recovery. I'm doing some online live courses that you can join and be a part of, small groups where you can connect with other people and learn